In a world that rewards loudness, speed, and noise, one woman became a storm of silence, and in that silence, she found a power greater than the world had ever seen. My dear friends, have you ever paused for a moment just to listen? Not to the world, but to your own soul. Today, I want to take you on a journey. A journey not of wealth, fame, or achievement, but of a woman, simple yet extraordinary, who, in the middle of chaos, chose peace over noise. She didn't shout back at the world. She didn't fight for attention. She didn't chase validation. She chose stillness. She chose truth. And most importantly, she chose God's wisdom. While others were trying to impress the world, she was trying to understand herself. While others were screaming for the spotlight, she was walking quietly in the light of the divine. This isn't just her story. It could be yours too. Have you ever walked into a crowded room where everyone is speaking at once? Some are talking loudly, others are trying to outdo each other, phones are buzzing, opinions are flying like arrows, and in the middle of it, you feel drained, almost lost. That, my friends, is noise. But not just the kind we hear, it's the kind we carry. Noise isn't always sound. Sometimes it's judgment. Sometimes it's the constant comparing of your life to someone else's. Sometimes it's the pressure to be someone you're not, to chase things you don't even want, just to feel like you're enough. And that noise, the noise of the world, is endless. But peace is different. Peace is found in a place the world cannot reach. Peace is found within. There was a woman, ordinary to the eyes, but extraordinary in spirit. She lived in the same world you and I live in. She had responsibilities, relationships, challenges. People misunderstood her, judged her, tried to provoke her, even compete with her. They tried to involve her in every drama, every argument, every race. But she was different. She had tasted something deeper than the world's noise. She had tasted inner stillness. And once you taste that, nothing else satisfies. She used to say, "Let the world be loud, I will remain still. Let the storm outside rage, I will keep my ocean calm." Her secret: she realized that the world's noise can only affect you if you let it enter your mind. And the mind only opens the door when it forgets its connection to the divine. You see, the real noise begins not outside, but inside. When we think we need to prove something, when we take every comment personally, when we believe every opinion matters, when we scroll endlessly through social media thinking, "They're ahead, I'm behind. They're happy, I'm not. Their life is perfect, mine is not." This inner chatter, that's the real noise. One day, she was in her kitchen making tea. Her phone buzzed. Another message that could have led to an argument. A friend misunderstood her words and was upset. In the past, she would have dropped everything and reacted instantly, sending long replies, defending herself, trying to fix it immediately. But not this time. She took a deep breath, poured her tea, and said, "Not every fire needs my fuel." She didn't respond with emotion, she responded with understanding. Later, with a calm mind, she replied with clarity, and peace remained intact. This is the power of mastering your inner world. Think about it. If someone throws a stone in your pond, what happens? The water reacts, it ripples, it disturbs, it loses its reflection. But what if the stone cannot reach the water? What if the pond is protected? That's how our mind can be. A sacred pond guarded by spiritual awareness. In today's world, we are constantly being pulled into chaos, family drama, workplace politics, social pressures. But peace is not about escaping the world. It's about learning to carry stillness within you wherever you go. It's about knowing that you have the right to protect your energy, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. Once, a young girl asked this woman, "How do you stay so calm when people try to provoke you?" She smiled and replied, "Because I stopped letting them rent space in my mind. I don't pay rent to noise. I only invest in peace." You see, peace is a practice. It doesn't come from reading a quote or meditating once a month. It comes from daily decisions. To pause before reacting, to breathe before responding, to listen not just to the world, but to your soul, to choose what matters over what is loud. And most importantly, peace comes from remembering who you belong to. Not the world, not people's opinions. You belong to the divine. And the divine is not loud. The divine is not in the earthquake, not in the thunder, not in the fire. The divine is in the still small voice, the voice you only hear when you are silent inside. So yes, the world will remain noisy. That's its nature. But you don't have to match it. You can rise above it, like a lotus that blooms untouched by the muddy water around it. You too can remain untouched by the chaos around you. The woman who chose peace over noise didn't live a perfect life, but she lived a powerful one because she mastered herself, and in doing so, she inspired others not with loud words, but with silent strength. And today, my friends, that choice is also yours. Every morning you wake up, you can ask yourself, will I let the world make noise inside me? Or will I walk in silence, strength, and surrender? Choose peace again and again, because in peace there is power. And in that power, there is God. We live in a time where the loudest voice is often mistaken for the strongest, where the fastest reply is seen as the smartest, where silence is often judged as submission and quietness as a lack of confidence. But true strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes it says nothing at all. There was once a woman who had many chances to speak, to fight back, to prove herself, to scream when she was wronged. People misunderstood her silence as fear. They thought she didn't have answers, or courage, or the fire to stand up for herself. What they didn't know is that she had all of that and more. But she had learned one thing the hard way. Not everything deserves a reaction. One day, she was falsely accused by someone at her workplace. The accusation was not small. It had the potential to damage her reputation. People whispered. Rumors spread. The noise grew louder every day. Many advised her, say something. Defend yourself. Prove them wrong. But she did not rush to speak. Instead, she waited. She observed. She reflected. She prayed. And in her stillness, something extraordinary happened. Truth revealed itself without her shouting it. The person who accused her eventually got tangled in their own web of lies. The truth rose slowly but steadily. And when it did, her silence became the loudest voice in the room. People began to say, she didn't say a word, and yet she was right all along. That's when people understood silence is not weakness. It is wisdom wrapped in discipline. You see, anyone can react. It takes no wisdom to shout. It takes no training to get angry. But it takes tremendous self-control to choose silence when your ego is begging to be heard. Most people speak not to express truth, but to defend their pride. They talk to win, not to understand. And in that process, they lose their peace. They lose relationships. And sometimes they lose themselves. Silence, on the other hand, is like the space between musical notes. It doesn't stop the music. It gives it rhythm. It gives it depth. In conversations, silence gives meaning. In conflict, silence gives space for truth to breathe. One evening, this same woman was sitting with her family at dinner. An argument broke out between two relatives. Voices escalated. Blame started flying. Everyone looked at her to take sides, to say something. She listened carefully. Then she said only one thing. Let's not say something now that we'll regret forever. That one sentence, said with calmness, not anger, changed the energy in the room. Not because it was loud, but because it came from awareness. Silence gave her clarity, and clarity gave her power. Every day we are tested. Someone cuts us off in traffic. A colleague talks behind our back. A loved one says something hurtful. Our ego flares up. Say something. Don't let this go. But ask yourself this: do I want to be right, or do I want to be wise? Silence doesn't mean you agree. It doesn't mean you are afraid. It means you are choosing your moment. You are protecting your energy. You are not wasting your words where they will not be heard. Because when your mind is silent, your intuition becomes louder. When your emotions are quiet, your decisions become wiser. And when your speech is deliberate, your words become powerful. It's not that this woman never spoke. Oh, she did. But only when it mattered. Only when her words could build, not break. Only when her silence had already spoken everything else. That is the true art of communication. To know when to speak and when to hold space for silence. In a world obsessed with replies, choose to respond with thought. In a world driven by urgency, choose to act with awareness. Let your silence carry the weight of your self-respect, not the burden of suppressed anger. This woman didn't let the noise around her disturb the quiet within her. She had mastered the art of stillness, not just with her mouth, but with her mind. And in that stillness, she connected deeply with the divine, because the divine doesn't always speak in thunder. Sometimes the most sacred messages are delivered in silence. So the next time life challenges you, when someone insults you, misunderstands you, or provokes you, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is my silence a sign of weakness, or is it my highest form of wisdom? Walk away if you must, not because you're afraid to fight, but because you no longer need to. The woman who chose peace over noise didn't win every argument, but she won every heart, not with power, not with words, but with presence. The kind of presence that comes only when you choose silence not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And today, you can make that choice too, again and again. Because silence, when used wisely, speaks louder than anything noise ever could. There's a saying, a tree with deep roots doesn't fear the storm. In the same way, a person anchored in the divine doesn't fear uncertainty, judgment, or adversity. The world may try to shake you, but when your roots are in God, you remain unshaken. There was a woman who lived a very ordinary life, yet her presence carried an extraordinary calmness. She wasn't loud, she wasn't famous, but wherever she went, she carried a quiet strength, like someone who had already seen the storm, walked through the fire, and still came out with a gentle smile. People often asked her, "How do you stay so calm when everything is falling apart?" And she would simply reply, "Because I don't lean on the world, I lean on something unshakable." She had faced loss of people, of dreams, of opportunities. She had gone through rejection and betrayal. She knew what heartbreak felt like. She knew what silence after prayer felt like. And yet, she still chose to keep her heart open, her mind focused, and her soul anchored. Why? Because she had learned early in life, if you depend on people, you will break. But if you depend on God, you will bend and rise again. You see, when you live your life based on the ever-changing opinions of others, you become a slave to their approval. One day, they praise you. you feel on top of the world. The next day, they criticize you, you crumble. That's the life most people are living, emotionally unstable, constantly reacting to outside noise. But this woman lived differently. She had discovered something deeper, that the only constant in life is the divine. Jobs may change, relationships may shift, health may decline, but the truth of God's presence within you, that still, sacred connection, remains. And the more you feed that connection, the more resilient you become. There was a moment in her life when everything seemed to be going wrong. Her finances were tight, her family was divided, her health was failing. A friend asked her, "Aren't you scared?" She looked at him and replied, "Of course I feel fear, but I'm not afraid because I know who walks with me." It wasn't that she had all the answers. It was that she trusted the one who did. Every morning, she took a few minutes before the world could reach her. No phone, no distractions, just silence. She sat eyes closed, heart open, simply breathing in the presence of God, not asking, not complaining, just being. And in those few minutes, she didn't just find peace, she became peace. People around her noticed. Even in the busiest of places, she remained calm. While others were triggered by small inconveniences, she responded with grace. When someone snapped at her in frustration, she didn't mirror it. She understood something most don't. When you are full inside, the outside cannot provoke you. You don't need to prove anything to anyone because your worth doesn't come from them. It comes from the source. In one moment, she shared a simple analogy with a younger girl who was struggling with anxiety. She said, "Imagine holding a cup of tea. If someone bumps into you, what spills out? Tea. Not because of the bump, but because that's what was inside. In the same way, when life shakes you, whatever is inside you will spill. If there's fear, fear spills. If there is anger, anger spills. But if you are filled with faith, love, and stillness, that's what the world will see, even in your hardest moments." Anchoring yourself in God doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means your foundation becomes solid. You no longer panic when the future feels uncertain, because you trust the journey. You no longer seek constant validation, because you are already seen. You no longer fight every battle, because you know which ones are worth your energy. That kind of clarity doesn't come from books or talks or even achievements. It comes from connection, a deep, daily, intentional relationship with the divine. The woman who chose peace over noise didn't always have a peaceful life, but she had a peaceful spirit. That's what made the difference. She stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What is this teaching me?" She stopped blaming the world and started taking responsibility for her own inner world. That shift from reaction to reflection changed everything. And so can you. You can wake up every day and choose to anchor your mind in something eternal. The world will always offer you things that rise and fall: attention, status, money, likes, approval. But if your peace is tied to those, it will rise and fall too. Let your peace come from a place untouched by the world, from the stillness that comes when you know, "I am not alone. I am guided. I am held. I am anchored." Because when you are rooted in the divine, nothing can truly break you. And that is real strength. There's a battle that happens every single day, not between you and others, but between your peace and your pride. It's subtle, it's quiet, but it's powerful. And the truth is, whichever one you feed wins. There was a woman who used to live on edge. She was sharp with her words, quick to respond, always needing the last say in every conversation. If someone disrespected her, She made sure they knew who she was. If someone crossed her boundaries, she raised her voice. It wasn't because she was bad, she was just hurt. Like many of us, she had been misunderstood, taken for granted, and ignored in her past. And so she wore pride like a shield. It was her protection. But over time, she realized something: pride may protect you from being hurt, but it also keeps you from being healed. One day, she was in an argument with a close friend. Words flew. Ego spoke louder than truth. And in that moment, something inside her paused. She felt her heart tighten. Not because she was wrong, but because she realized she was about to lose something valuable just to win an argument. That night, she sat with her own silence and whispered to herself, was it worth it? The answer was no. You see, pride tells you, don't bend, don't back down, don't say sorry first. But peace tells you, let go, be bigger than the moment. Don't lose yourself to prove yourself. And slowly, this woman began to change. She started asking herself a powerful question before reacting in any situation. Will this protect my peace or feed my pride? When someone spoke to her with anger, she didn't reflect that anger back. When someone disrespected her, she didn't waste her energy fighting for validation. Not because she was weak, but because she had grown strong enough to know what was truly worth her time. And peace, she learned, was more valuable than being right. In today's world, people are celebrated for clapping back, for making statements, for standing their ground at all costs. But what's the cost? Is it your relationship with your family? Is it the joy of your marriage? Is it the peace in your heart? She once witnessed a couple, two elderly people who had been married for over 40 years. She asked them, what's the secret to staying together so long? The old woman laughed and said, we learned how to let small things go. We realized being at peace with each other is more important than proving who's right. That sentence stayed with her forever, because the truth is your pride will never hug you at night. Your pride won't listen when your heart is tired. Your pride won't hold your hand when you're in pain. But peace is there, quietly holding space for your healing, for your softness, for your truth. There was another time she was walking past a neighbor who had once said something very hurtful about her. Every cell in her body wanted to look the other way, to ignore them, to protect her pride. But instead, she smiled, not because she forgot the hurt, but because she refused to carry it anymore. That small act of grace didn't change the neighbor, but it changed her. Her shoulders felt lighter. Her breath felt deeper, because in that moment, she realized forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about freeing yourself. Pride often disguises itself as strength, but it quietly steals your energy. It makes you hyper aware of how others see you, constantly defensive, always on edge. But peace is soft, gentle, and unshakably powerful. It allows you to walk away without resentment, to listen without interrupting, to be misunderstood without feeling the need to explain everything. That is real strength. The woman who chose peace over noise chose it because she had finally learned that her energy was sacred, that not every insult needed a reply, that not every fight was worth entering, that sometimes silence is louder than words, and walking away is braver than staying to prove a point. She began practicing something simple but powerful: pausing. Just a few seconds before reacting. In that pause, she would ask herself, what does my highest self want to do right now? And most times, the answer wasn't to argue. It wasn't to raise her voice. It was to breathe, to smile, to walk away, to let go. And the beautiful part, The more she chose peace over pride, the more respected she became, not because she demanded it, but because people could feel her strength. It wasn't loud, it was silent, and it was steady. This way of living isn't easy. It requires deep reflection. It requires letting go of the need to control everything. It requires choosing inner peace over outer applause. But it is worth it, because in the end, no one remembers who won the argument. But they always remember who made them feel safe, calm, and seen. So choose peace again and again, even when your pride wants to rise, even when your ego wants to speak. Pause, reflect, and remember, nothing you gain from pride is more valuable than what you lose from sacrificing your peace. The woman who understood this didn't just find peace, she became it. And so can you. There are two kinds of people we meet in life: those who bring the storm and those who bring the calm. The question is, which one are you becoming? We all face moments when life feels chaotic: deadlines at work, arguments at home, misunderstandings, delays, rejections, even bad traffic on a rainy day. It's not about whether the storm will come. It's about what you choose to become in the middle of it. There was a woman who understood this deeply. People often said she had a soothing presence. Not because she didn't have problems. She had many. But because she refused to let those problems define how she showed up in the world. She once told a story of being in a busy hospital waiting room. Her child had a high fever, and the line was long. Parents were panicking. A woman nearby was crying. Another man was yelling at the nurse. The tension was thick, but she, despite her own fear, remained calm. She spoke kindly to the nurse. She comforted the crying woman. She offered her seat to an elder. And in that moment, she wasn't just waiting to be helped. She was helping others breathe. After things settled down, a nurse quietly walked over and said, "Thank you. You don't know how much your energy helped today." And that day, she realized something profound. You don't have to fix the whole world. Sometimes your calmness is the medicine someone else needs. This is what it means to be the calm in the storm. Too often, people believe that reacting strongly shows strength, that yelling means control, that raising your voice wins respect. But this is not true strength. This is turbulence. Real strength is when your mind stays centered, even when your surroundings spin out of control. Real strength is when your peace becomes contagious, not your panic. She had learned that life will constantly test your energy. Someone will say something to provoke you. A delay will ruin your plan. An unexpected expense will shake your budget. These moments are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to rise, not react. To lead with calmness, not chaos. At work, when deadlines piled up, she was the one who didn't complain. She organized. When team members grew frustrated, she listened first, then spoke with clarity. One of her colleagues once asked, "How do you stay so composed?" She smiled and said, "Because panic never solved anything, and presence always does." She used to practice something every morning before stepping into the world. Just 5 minutes of silence. Not to escape life, but to prepare for it. She would sit with her breath, grounding herself, whispering, "No matter what comes today, I will carry stillness within me." And when the day threw its storms, she didn't get swept away, because she had already anchored herself. Think of the eye of a cyclone. The center is still, even as the winds rage around it. That stillness is not weakness, it's power. And we all have that power within us if we just learn to pause and go inward. There was a time when her own family was in conflict. Siblings arguing, relatives gossiping, tension growing. She didn't pick sides. She didn't throw fuel on the fire. Instead, she became the space where people could talk openly, where judgments melted and hearts softened. Not because she had all the answers, but because she had the energy of peace. And peace has a silent authority that no argument can defeat. People often confuse calmness with indifference. But calmness doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply. But you choose to respond with wisdom instead of noise. It means you protect your peace, and in doing so, you become a safe place for others. In today's world, there is so much urgency. Everyone wants to be heard, to be right, to win. But rarely do people stop to listen. Rarely do they pause to understand. The woman who chose peace over noise became different because she mastered this pause. And in that pause, she found patience. In that patience, she found clarity. And in that clarity, she found power. There's a quiet kind of leadership, the kind that doesn't demand attention, but naturally earns respect. That's the kind of presence she embodied. She didn't shout. She didn't force. She didn't fight for control. She just remained calm. And in doing so, she led, not through dominance, but through dignity. So, when life throws you into a storm, when someone disrespects you, when plans fall apart, when the world feels too loud, remember, you don't have to match the chaos. You don't have to become the storm. You can be the calm. You can be the one who slows down instead of speeding up, who listens instead of interrupting, who responds with grace instead of reaction. Because the world doesn't need more storms, it needs more centers of peace. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there is waiting for your calmness to remind them of their own. The woman who lived this truth didn't just survive storms. She became the reason others found shelter in the middle of them. That's the strength of calm. That's the courage of peace. And that, my friend, is the legacy of the one who chose stillness over storm.